أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. It was mentioned, now again I'll repeat it a little bit as a reminder, and that is, we mentioned a hadith yesterday from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and there the Holy Prophet says that ma bayn al-kufr wal-iman, the distance between kufr and iman is tarkus salat. That a person, if he puts prayers aside, he is very much prone or very much in danger into falling into kufr. So between kufr and iman, the separation is salat. So if someone sticks to his prayers, gives importance to his prayers, then there are more chances, more likelihood of him being protected and immune to be staying with iman. And again it was mentioned that لَيْسَ مِنِّي مَنِ اسْتَخَفَّ بِصَلَاتِهِ لَا يَرِدُ عَلَيْهِ الْحَوْضِ لَا وَاللَّهِ. Again he says that someone who takes prayers easy, he will not meet me by the pond that is Kawthar in the hereafter, in the paradise. And then he says, La wallah, by God he will not meet me. Now this is someone who takes prayers easy. Taking prayers easy means not giving that much of importance that we ought to give. Now among the issues that were mentioned yesterday about giving importance to prayers, it's the on-time prayers. And for that again, a hadith was quoted from Imam al-Asr ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. And there Imam, he says that mal'oonun man akhara al-ghada ila an tanqadi an-nujum, that someone who delays his prayers from its time of fadila. For example, if it is the morning prayers, if he delays it from the time of fazila until the stars, they vanish in the morning, says that this person, he is mal'oon, he is deprived from that special share of mercy of Allah. And again continues in that same hadith, Imam, and says that mal'oonun man akhar al-maghrib ila an tashtabika an-nujum. Says that mal'oon is someone who delays his maghrib prayers from its time of fazila to the time when the stars, they are evident. So that is, it was mentioned that there is a time of fazila, which is the hour on which that salat has been designated by Allah, that we ought to say our prayers at that time. Now that time of fazila, again, it's different to every individual. If the time you take to say your maghrib prayers is 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 4 minutes, based upon every individual, for him that time of fazila will be that little slot. So that is, if maghrib is at 9 today, till 9:04 is the time of fazila. If someone delays it beyond that, he's lost that time of fazila. So it's so important and so delicate. And again it was mentioned that Marhum Ayatullah al-Uzma Qazi Tabatabai, one of the greatest urafa of this past century, he says that someone who offers his prayers on the time of fazila and he does not achieve those high ranks and maqamat, curse me or spit on my face. So it's so great that offering prayers at the time of fazila, they have barakat, and the whole idea is to ascend, to reach the existence of Allah and to lessen the distance between us and Him. And again, there is another hadith which says that أول الوقت it's أول الوقت is رضوانullah, that someone who says his prayers at the time of fazila, he has sought the pleasure of Allah. And someone who delays his prayers and offers them after the time of fazila, but not qaza, it is within the framework, but does it later, hadith says, that is ghufranullah, that you need to seek forgiveness of Allah. Now, seeking forgiveness from Allah, it's when a person has committed a sin. So over here, Ma'asum, he says that because we've lost that great opportunity of saying our prayers at that on time of fazila, it deserves repentance, it deserves tawbah, because we've lost that time of fazila. So we have to make it a habit that give importance to prayers and stick to that time of fazila, not to say them whenever we wish, whenever we please. Although we have done the duty, but we've lost a lot. That is by losing that time of fazila. One of the other things is that we have all these different recitals in, for example, in the sacred month of Rajab. And for example, when we say Atubu ilallah or Astaghfirullah wa Atubu ilay, it's just a mere recital that is uttered by our tongue, that Allah forgive us, or we seek your forgiveness, or we seek repentance, so on and so forth. Now this mere recital would be beneficial if it stems from the depth and the core of one's heart. If he says it sincerely from the heart, that will be accepted. And that tawbah also will be accepted. And that ghufran and forgiveness of Allah also can be sought. Now keep this in mind. If we just say it as a recital without it having any connection with the heart and the soul of an individual, it would not have that benefit. The a'mal that we do, now the topic is the etiquettes of salat that we have to observe, the adab of salat. There is this dua, inshallah, we normally recite it in the month of Sha'ban, in Munajat Sha'baniyya. We say that, Ilahi habli kamal al-inqita'i ilayk, that, O God, make it as such that I aloof myself, I cut myself from everything which hinders between me and you. That is, I reduce the distance between me and you and come closer to you. And then says, وَأَنِرْ أَبْصَارَ قُلُوبِنَا بِضِيَاءِ نَظَرِهَا إِلَيْكَ, that God, make it as such that you enlighten my heart so that it sees, not the heart, the eyes of my heart, so that it sees your greatness, so that it is able to see you. So what we understand over here is that to see the unseen, or to see the existence of Allah, or to create a relationship with Him, these physical eyes, they are not needed. These eyes, they are stuck to our head and they see just what we are meant to see over here. To see beyond this earth, that eye is needed, which is connected to the soul and the heart of an individual. So that has to be cleaned. And then continues with the same dua, فَتَسِلَ إِلَى مَعْدَنِ الْعَظَمَةِ وَتَسِيرَ أَرْوَاحُنَا مُعَلَّقَةً بِعِزِّ قُدْسِكَ. So what we understand from this dua is that the worship that we do, it has two sides. There is a worship, a form of it, which is done as we do in prayers. There is a sitting, standing, sajda, ruku, tashahhud, salam. So there is a face, a zahir for that prayer. And there is a batin for the prayer as well. What is that batin? The interior of the prayer. Now to understand that, the teaching is that if a person can stand, he has to stand and say the prayers. If he can't, he sits and says the prayers. If he couldn't, he lies down and says it. If he could not do that as well, he does it with ishara and by pointing out. And if he couldn't do anything, just with one, if he's drowning in the sea, just says Allahu Akbar facing Qibla and he's done the duty. The whole aspect of all these different stages when a person does perform a worship is that that soul, that heart, it has to get connected to Allah. Now the standing up, the sitting down, the face of the prayer, it's one side of it. That is the zahir of the prayer. And that is why we find in Quran that يَوْمَ تَجِدُ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا عَمِلَتْ مِنْ خَيْرٍ مُحْضَرًا وَمَا عَمِلَتْ مِنْ سُوءٍ, that whatsoever we do in this world, may that be good or bad, it will take a form in the hereafter. But that form is present even in this dunya, and those who possess that sight of barzakh, they see the exact existence of that form. So everything we do, it has a form. And among those things is giving importance to prayers, performing them on time. And again, a hadith was mentioned yesterday. I'd like to repeat it once again. And this is from our sixth Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam. Says that man salla salat al-mafruḍāt fi awwal waqtiha. If someone gives importance to his prayers, his wajib prayers, and performs them on the hour, at that exact time, says that this prayer elevates and ascends to the skies by 2 angels, and then he gets a call back from the skies. What is that call? Says that حَفِظَكَ اللَّهُ كَمَا حَفَظْتَنِي. May Allah protect you as you protected me. That is the prayers. And then those angels, they say farewell to the person who has performed the prayers. And then says that وَمَنْ صَلَّاهَا بَعْدَ وَقْتِهَا, that someone who offers his prayers not on the hour, delays them and says them later on. مِنْ غَيْرِ عِلَّةٍ, without any reason, for no reason at all. There wasn't any excuse. He just delays his prayers. Then says that these prayers are taken, ascended to the skies with dark angels. And then that hatif, that caller, he gives this call. What is that? ضَيَّعْتَنِي ضَيَّعَكَ Allah. That you lost me. You ruined me. That is, you ruined the prayer, which should have been said at the time of Fazila. You ruined this prayer. May Allah ruin you. And then says, وَلَا رَعَاكَ اللَّهُ كَمَا lam tarani, and may Allah never take care of you as you never took care of me. So, giving importance to prayers, again it was mentioned that prayer, it has a zahir, it has a face. The face of the prayer is what we offer. And there is a batin to that prayer, and that is the moral connection, the spiritual connection of an individual with the existence of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So there are some etiquettes to be observed, some adab to be observed in this worship. And that is, we have to ponder, we have to concentrate and think that where we are connected. Now if you look into the prayers that we offer, if now the fuqaha, mujtahideen, they say that it has to be done when a person, with all those adab, that a person has to be calm, that he has to do them properly, one after the other. The sequence, the pattern has to be observed. If that is done, that prayer is correct. According to fiqh, that prayer is correct. Now if that prayer, the shell of the prayer is good, but the inner side of the prayer does not relate and does not connect to the existence of Allah, then that prayer is just a prayer, a shell, a look-alike of a prayer. A true prayer is something which relates and connects us and creates a relationship, a bond with the existence of Allah. Now among the things that we ought to observe is that first of all we have to know what this salat is. What is this prayer? Why has this prayer been made wajib? What happens by a person offering these prayers? That ilm or that knowledge regarding the prayer, we have to increase it. So once that knowledge increases, we shouldn't stick to that knowledge itself, because knowledge, it's just a bypass to ascend further. If we stick to that knowledge and know all the beauties of the prayer and stick to it, that would become another hindrance, another barrier between us and Allah. So we get to know what prayer is, and then we have to move forward and get along to further ranks and stages which lead to creating a better bond with the existence of Allah. Among the issues that we need to observe in prayer is khushu. Khushu, normally it's translated as fright, fear. A person has to be fearful, has to be frightful when he stands before Allah for his prayers. Now, how can this fright and this fear be achieved? Again, sometimes this fear can be achieved by seeing the greatness of Allah, and sometimes this fear can be achieved by having the punishment, the rage, the wrath of Allah, which He can show in the hereafter. So, sometimes it's by seeing the beauty of Allah, a person is feared. Sometimes by seeing the rage of Allah, he is scared. Sometimes it is by seeing the Jamal of Allah, and sometimes it is the Jalal of Allah. It's the two things which make... Now, for example, with reference to Jalal, or with reference to the punishments and the weeping and crying which mu'mineen have in prayers, it's said that Hazrat Yahya bin Zakariya, among the great prophets, is also known among the Bakka'in. Bakka'in, someone who cries a lot. So this great universe of Allah has seen 4 personalities who cried a lot. One of them is Prophet Yahya. And it was as such that whenever Prophet Yaqub, he mentioned the topic of Qiyamah, Yahya, he used to cry so much that many a times he used to faint. And when Prophet Yaqub did want to talk about the day of judgment, the horror of the day of reckoning, first of all he saw if Yahya is present in that majlis. If he was present, he would never touch that topic. Once he did start the topic, and before that he saw if Yahya is present in the majlis. When he was certain and sure that he is not present in the majlis, he opened the topic, and after a while he sees Yahya cry so much that he had to leave that majlis. Again he sought refuge in the deserts, again crying and pleading due to the fright and fear and the horror of the day of judgment. So that again is khushu, but because of the horror and the fright of the hereafter. Some people have khushu because of the beauty of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Again, so all these are the different stages a person can possess, that he has to have that khushu, that fright when he stands in worship before Allah. And among the things which do help, one of the things which is said by the ulama of akhlaq, they say that if you want to perform a better service, offer your prayers in a desert, offer your prayers in a meadow, in a place where you yourself feel so tiny and small and minute in the creation of Allah. So when you see yourself so small and tiny, then you can try and think about the greatness of the creation of Allah and the creation and the existence of Allah Himself. There is this hadith quite famous from Zainab Attara. She is a lady who comes to the Prophet once a month and brings the best of fragrances, perfumes, and sells them to the Prophet. Once she comes and says, Ya Rasulullah, how can I perceive the greatness of God? In reply, he says that greatness of God you can never perceive, you can never understand how great He is. But you can try and understand the greatness of His creation. And then he reports a hadith, says that this entire world, all of it, compared to the next sky, it's no more than a ring, a small ring, which is thrown into a huge big desert. Now what significance that little ring has in that desert? Nothing. Says this world, this entire planet compared to the next sky is no more than a ring. That one compared to the next sky up, again that's no more than a ring. And again he compares all of these to the 7 skies and then says that entire existence that we see compared to the beyond, it's no more than a dot. Now, no one can perceive that greatness of the creation of Allah. Then how can we perceive the greatness of Allah Himself? So by having these things in mind, we can perform a better service, that we are standing before someone who is everything and we are nothing. So that way, a better service can be performed. Again, among the qualities which Surah Al-Mu'minun mentions for Mu'minun, it's قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. That prosperous are the Mu'mineen. Who are the Mu'mineen? The first quality which this surah mentions is they are those who are khashi', who are fearful in their worship, in their prayers. So khushu is important. Now when it comes to khushu, the next step is that we have to have that tuma'nina, tranquility when we offer our prayers. Now tranquility, again, it might so happen, or we might understand it as such, that you say the prayers slowly, quietly, properly, in a calm atmosphere, and the recitals be uttered one after the other in a decent manner. That is one side of tranquility. So if that does not exist in a prayer, fuqaha, they may say that prayer also, it's not acceptable. So we have a tranquility in prayer, a calmness in prayer, a tuma'nina in prayer, which is the shell of the prayer, and there is a tranquility which is the inner side of the prayer, or the core of the prayer, and that is the heart. So that heart, it shouldn't be disturbed. It should be at rest. It should be at calm. And then when we stand to say a prayer, it would be a better prayer, a better service that can be offered. So that heart has to be at rest. It shouldn't be in tension, too many things happening in there, all these things rushing around. So we have to try and train the heart, cool it down. We have all this disturbance, that distraction that comes along in the heart that has to be put aside. There are quite a few things that are mentioned. And that is, we've got these different inputs, or these outlets, that is the ears, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and the private parts. So all these outlets, if they are concealed and closed outside the prayers, then in the prayer, nothing will penetrate. So that soul that we have, it's got a shell on it, which is the body, and there are these openings that could penetrate trash and contamination into the soul. So we have to protect them. Eyes from evil sights, ears from wrong hearings, and the other outlets and inputs that we have. If they are secure, the soul also will be secure. Because what happens is, when a person stands for prayers, all that filth that is outside our body, that penetrates into the soul when we are standing in worship before Allah. And that is shaitan's beauty. That is what he does. He says that I will attack them, especially when they stand for prayer, because that is the time when they create a bond and a link with you, and I will try my best that that link and bond is never created. So we have to be smart. If he is smart, we also have to be smart. So that tuma'nina must exist. So the prayer itself, the zahir of the prayer, has to be at rest. No disturbance should be there. Even the inner side, that is the heart, that is the soul, that too also should be away from disturbance, away from distraction. And that way, a better service can be performed. Now when it is mentioned that the soul, it has a sight which sees, or in other words, when we say these recitals and azkar and the surahs and the prayers, now our tongue does say that, but the reality is that the spokesman of an individual, it's the heart. So the heart has eyes which see, the heart has a tongue which talks. And to understand this, there is a hadith from, again it's Hadith al-Qudsi, the Almighty Allah, He says that كُنْتُ سَمْعَهُ الَّذِي يَسْمَعُ بِهِ. If a person purifies himself, cleans himself, and he comes to a rank that the hearing of this servant of mine becomes the hearing of Allah. The speech of this servant of mine becomes the speech of Allah. His tongue becomes the tongue of Allah. His sight becomes the sight of Allah. So all these are as a result of that tranquility or as a result of that khushu a person can possess. So one of the other things is that the heart of an individual, it has to be educated, it has to be trained as we train ourselves in tajweed to recite the surahs, the recitals in the correct way. We have to train our heart that it accepts everything. It accepts all these realities. It accepts these facts. And if it does accept these realities and facts, only then will that prayer we will be able to perform a better prayer. May Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala help us in performing a better service, in performing the prayers in a better way. And may He Jalla wa Ala hasten the reappearance of our Imam, our Master, and enlist us among His servants. Salawat. Do you have any questions? Yeah.
You gave the example that sometimes we got scared or frightened because of the Jamal. What is the example of that? How a person can be for the Jamal of Allah get scared of Him?
By seeing the greatness of His creation.
But it's not going to create a frightfulness. It's kind of
A type of fright does.
for Jamal.
Yeah, for Jamal. By seeing the beauty of Allah. Anything else? جائز شنو؟ يعني يستحب يعني في الصلاة المغرب والعشاء إذا الإمام هو قرأ سورة الحمد الجماعة يقول الحمد لله رب العالمين. مكتوب في الرسالات. موجود.
क्वेश्चन है कि फजर की नमाज और मगरिब की नमाज में से ज़्यादा फजीलत किस नमाज की?
हर नमाज की फजीलत है. Every namaz has its own fazila.
You said like the time for Maghrib, like from Maghrib the star comes out and in the morning time. So what is the for the Zuhar?
Zohar again, it's the same thing. The time of fazila. Well, normally the definition that we have, that if you have that stick buried in the ground and then the shadow, the moment it starts to grow, that is that awwal waqt of Zohr. Now all that is not needed with all these calculations that we have today. If Zohr is 1:30 today, then the time of fazila starts from 1:30. So if you have yourselves prepared before namaz, then when the time enters, say your azan and iqama, and then whatever time you take to say your maghrib, your zohr prayers, that is the time of fazila.
And the namaz time of Isha immediately starts right after the maghrib namaz?
No, that's an exception now. Asr and Isha and all. If you want, you can say them at the designated times.
Which is better, to give a gap?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, giving a gap is better. But if you have a jama'at that has been established, then you can say that. Or otherwise also you are allowed to do that.
so if I was to read individually, and if I choose to...
That's better.
Gap, it is better.
Yes, gap is better. وسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات الفاتحة مع الصلوات. 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 4 minutes, based upon every individual. For him, that time of fazila will be that little slot. So that is, if Maghrib is at 9 today, till 9:04 is the time of fazila. If someone delays it beyond that, he's lost that time of fazila. So it's so important and so delicate. And again it was mentioned that Marhum Ayatullah al-Uzma Qazi Tabatabai, one of the greatest urafa of this past century, he says that someone who offers his prayers on the time of fazila and he does not achieve those high ranks and maqamat, curse me or spit on my face. So it's so great that offering prayers at the time of fazila, they have barakat, and the whole idea is to ascend, to reach the existence of Allah. La yaridu alayya al-hawd la wallah. Again he says that someone who takes prayers easy, he will not meet me by the pond that is Kawthar in the hereafter, in the paradise. And then he says, La wallah, by God he will not meet me. Now this is someone who takes prayers easy. Taking prayers easy means not giving that much of importance that we ought to give. Now among the issues that were mentioned yesterday about giving importance to prayers, it's the on-time prayers. And for that again, a hadith was quoted from Imam al-Asr Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. And there Imam, he says that mal'oonun man akhara al-ghada ila an tanqadiya an-nujum, that someone who delays his prayers from its time of fadila. For example, if it is the morning prayers, if he delays it from the time of fazila until the stars, they vanish in the morning, says that this person, he is mal'oon, he is deprived from that special share of mercy of Allah. And again continues in that same hadith, Imam, and says that mal'oonun man akhara al-maghrib ila an tashtabika an-nujum. Says that mal'oon is someone who delays his maghrib prayers from its time of fazila to the time when the stars, they are evident. So that is, it was mentioned that there is a time of fazila, which is the hour on which that salat has been designated by Allah, that we ought to say our prayers at that time. Now that time of fazila, again, it's different to every individual. If the time you take to say your maghrib prayers is, it was mentioned, now again I'll repeat it a little bit as a reminder, and that is, we mentioned a hadith yesterday from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and there the Holy Prophet says that ma bayn al-kufr wal-iman, the distance between kufr and iman is tarkus salat. That a person, if he puts prayers aside, he is very much prone or very much in danger into falling into kufr. So between kufr and iman, the separation is salat. So if someone sticks to his prayers, gives importance to his prayers, then there are more chances, more likelihood of him being protected and immune to be staying with iman. And again it was mentioned that لَيْسَ مِنِّي مَنْ اسْتَخَفَّ بِصَلَاتِ. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين، بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. صلى الله على محمد